Hello, friends. Robert Bevan here, author of the Caverns and Creatures series of comedy, fantasy novels, and short stories. With me is Sam West, and today we're going to be talking about the spell Wall of Stone. And now, it's my understanding that we are coming at this from kind of opposite points of view.
Maybe.
You are not a fan of the spell, correct? Or
the spell annoys me. I think it can be fun, but there's too many words here.
I don't know how I feel about it as a player taking it and using it, but as a contributor to civilization, like this is like Gutenberg's printing press or the wheel. This is If you had two people, any spell should have like a gold cost associated with it, I think it's this one, and yet it does not.
I make it an optional gold cost where if you don't pay, it goes away. Easy peasy. Then you have the cool spell and a construction tool. Because right now, this is just a free construction tool. But yeah, that's a genuinely really interesting element of it. Just like think about a world where two guys run around with Wall of Stone over 50 years. They can just create cities by themselves, willy-nilly, just sticking a bunch of stone everywhere. It's a cool world building like brain teaser to go through if you are the kind of person that likes to go down and come up with weird D&D settings. Just be like, what if the villain just made a whole island himself to dedicate it and built exclusively out of Wall of Stone? Sure, why not? It could do that.
What else does this spell do? Because I'm so fixated on just civilization building.
Okay, here's the gist of it.
Yes.
You get 10 panels. The panels are either, there's too much math involved. They're 10 by 10 and 6 inches thick, or 10 by 20 and 3 inches thick. Okay. And the inch matters because each panel gets a number of hit points equal to 30 times its inches of thickness. So if you have a 6-inch one, you have 30 times 6, or 180 hit points per panel. If you have a half of that, it's 90. All of them have AC of 15, and you get to make them. Additionally, for some reason, if you would surround a creature with it, the creature gets to make a reaction to use its movement to get out of the area before it happens, which I find is weird. Additionally, you don't have to have this stuck to any ground, so long as you have a continuous line of it between a stone and anywhere. You can have this like making weird shapes into the sky and odd sculptures and stuff. You can be doing some wacky things with like bridging or creating giant nets that catch a whole bunch of stuff. Like there's a bunch of cool ways to conceivably fill space with this because it's prerequisite is just it's touching a rock.
I mean, it is still like non-magical stone. If you cast it up in the air, it's just gonna fall, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's gonna hit things.
Yeah, that's cool.
Or like, so if let's say you're at a ceiling, you can have one of the panels just fixed in the ceiling and the rest will hypothetically just stay hung there because they were physically like attached, and as long as gravity isn't too much, they are there forever now. Which is neat. But if you do have it be like, it's just this tiny little corner is attached there, it'll just crumble and fall. And then you have to ask the question, how much damage, because this has got a 120-foot range, does 10 by 20 foot falling panels deal? And that's an odd question that DMs are gonna have to be like, I don't know the answer to that one. You can just like find the top of the cave where all the kobolds are and attach it to the very bitty corner and just create this giant blanket that just breaks and falls from the sky and smashes them all. Nifty. I don't know if it works. I would roll as a DM that there's a creative use of it, but it's odd to say the least. This spell has a lot of words and does a lot of things that I think it makes it cool. I just like the bit about creatures dashing, I wish wasn't there. I wish like you just give me the fixed length. Give me 10 by 10s that are always this amount of hit points as opposed to having to do math. Because anytime you have to add math to D&D, people are going to stop. It's going to take 15, 20 minutes to figure out how exactly it works. And you're going to be like, wait, no, is that the number? People who are avid viewers will have known of times where Bob and I go back and forth on the math of something. It is never pretty. So
I'm not going to even do that because all I care about is building cities.
You're back here playing Civilization 3 and everyone else is playing Dungeons and Dragons. I got you.
I guess it has its uses in combat, especially like we mentioned before when we're talking about Wall of Thorns. It's really handy if you just need to get away, fill a corridor with stone, and
and
probably take a long rest.
Yeah, what's way better than a lot of the other walls is because you can kind of pick how this fits. You can just make a 3x3, 10x10 wall that'll close very big openings. Unlike a lot of the walls where it's really easy to fly over or climb over, you can genuinely like close off large spaces with this, which I think is a really giant, meaningful upside. And if they're chewing through 109 or 180 hit points of damage, you're gonna have a long time to get out of it, especially whenever it's on a giant sheer stone wall. Creatures might even immediately go to be like, oh yeah, let's start breaking that down. They'll be like, wait, why is there a giant stone wall here, and trying to figure out what's going on instead. So it will give you a lot of time to escape. It's great in filling a bunch of different gaps. It's flexible in that manner, a lot more flexible than the other walls. I don't know. I think I'm sorry, I think I had the hiccups. As far as powerful magic goes, as far as like powerful walls go, I'd actually rate this as one of the higher ones in just that it's really flexible and does a lot of creative things.
Yeah. All right. So I don't know. So you don't like it because it's too much math?
I don't like it because it's too much math. There could be definitely a lot less words here. I also don't like the bit that particularly annoys me is that if the wall would surround a creature, which is a neat use case of it, it gives that creature a reaction to move.
Yeah.
Which is something no other spell in the game, to my knowledge, does. No other spell gives somebody a reaction that's potentially beneficial to them, which just takes a neat use case of it and kind of guts it. Granted, I get that for a 5th level spell, trapping somebody in a 180 hit point box is kind of powerful. At the same time, I have such a weird and hard time thinking of how I would rule things as a DM in a lot of these cases, right? Where if my player went to like if you're creating a wall in between you and them and they're just backed into a corner anyway, I find it hard to say like, oh no, the wall can't be used. It doesn't give them the reaction to dash, right? Like if they're in a larger open cave and this isn't enclosing them but still cutting them off, it still has the same effect, but it's situational to the environment. I don't know. I think the text is unnecessary. I think it makes the spell worse. The spell can afford to be worse, granted. And it's definitely a pet peeve. It still is probably perfectly fine for a lot of people. I just, again, that in combination with you can pick different size panels and they're not squares. They become 10x20. So they're even more awkward to geometrically fit into the areas you want them to. I don't know. It all compiles to be a spell that gives you a little bit more like ground, like it could have been simpler and still powerful and not have been a little bit of a headache to try and have to figure out every single time you cast it.
Yeah, it might add an hour to a session, but
exactly. And I don't want spells.
The first couple of times
already complicated
you do it,
enough.
Once you and your DM use it a couple of times, you'll get the hang of it.
Bob, how many drinks do you typically have while playing Dungeons and Dragons? And you're going to tell me that this is something that
I'm saying other people, not me in particular.
I think most people enjoy playing Dungeons and Dragons recreationally, and I think that sometimes involves intoxication. So I think most groups are going to find that, this can grind things to a halt and be a whole lot of, oh shit, I forgot that the 20-foot panel only have 90 hit points. And we have to figure out where to fit all those 10x20 panels and how do I get them to fold in weird directions and stuff. And I would love it if this was just 10x10 panels that are 6 inches thick. I would love it if this spell didn't have the weird, you can't trap things with it, because I think it's a neat effect. And it's not then you could even just say remove the impermanence, don't put them in a permanent box if they physically can't break out of it. There could have been ways that this spell could be a lot simpler, and I would like that. There are definitely people who are going to like the complex and the wacky and wild things. I think you fit slightly more into that category, I would guess, based off how you love it as the world building thing. So I think it's just a matter of opinion as far as how complex you like your games. I like mine tend to be simpler. So that's why
in general, I like simpler, but this spell, I like having some options, sure. If I want a sunken living room or whatever, I could see myself, when I had more time and, before I had a wife and kids, I could envision myself thinking about how many times I would need to cast Wall of Stone to build my dream house,
Sure, it would be an entirely stone house. I'm envisioning ever since we started talking about this, generally speaking, the moment my mouth opens, you're just zoned out and you're like building your perfect architectural dream building, and you're just like, yes, furnished basement, yes, our in-ground pool, and it's like, oh yeah, Sam, you're done. Okay, next question. That's how I feel like this is gone.
It kind of has.
Great, I love that. I will say, like, there is genuinely some cool things to talk about as far as the world building goes. It is a genuinely really neat thing that you have a permanent impact on the world for no gold cost. You can just, if you have a week vacation, take 3 long rests or 2 long rests a day or whatever to get 2 casts of this, and then you're just making walls everywhere, and you can build your own settlement. You can have a bunch of fortifications. You can build them on top of each other to have these monolithic, enormous walls. This can be a really cool long-term kind of rest spell. This can be a really cool thing. But the people before us that were archmages or whatever had wall of stones. They were able to build some wacky cool things.
See, and that's where the really complications are kind of okay, because you don't want to do any of this in game anyway, because that's boring for a session. However, now you say, all right, are the sessions over? All right, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to build my palace, and until next week when we have another session, I'm between now and then, I'm going to send you
schematics,
all the measurements, all the other crap, and here's what I'm gonna have when we pick back up again.
Between this and Fabricate, Bob, I think you might be in the wrong profession. I think you were supposed to be a carpenter or something based off of your interests.
Oh, speaking of fabric, have you seen the comments?
Oh, I haven't. I should go look. Are they livid?
Yeah.
Great.
Well, no, not livid. They're just like, man, how could you be so harsh on the spell? There's so many things you can do with it. And yeah, they've come up with some stuff. We might need to revisit Fabricate, but yeah,
I think that would be a fun endeavor down the road to go for now, though. Wall of Stone, I think this is a 4 out of 5. I think the spell is quite good, and though it annoys me, it's gonna be great on most character sheets.
I'm giving it a 5 out of 5.
Reshapes the world, huh?
Oh yeah, this is
game busted.
This is this when some wizard, living in squalor with his little clay jars and his animal pelts or whatever, figured out the mechanics. Is, whoa, I can build walls of stone from nothing. That changed the D&D world.
I love how you envision these things happening. It brings me a great amount of joy because it's just the silliest possible way. It's just a man that's clearly a hermit that's never opened a book in his life, that's living off the land. It goes, but Stonewall, and then creates this magical monolith to time and space.
That's how everybody was living at that point in time.
Yep. Before Wall of Stone, everyone was a caveman and banging sticks around and hunting saber-toothed tigers. Yep. That's before Wall of Stone. That's before people figured out how to use magic to build things as opposed to their hands.
Yes.
Yep. Incredible.
All right. Oh, that was fun.
That's Wall of Stone.
All right. Well, I guess we covered as much as we're going to do there. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Thank you, Sam. And we will see you next time. Bye-bye. Thank you for watching. If you found this helpful, informative, or entertaining, I'd really appreciate it if you hit the like button below. You needn't smash it. A gentle tap will suffice. If you want to see more videos like this, subscribe to the channel. And make sure you check out the links in the description, where you'll find my Caverns and Creatures series of comedy fantasy novels, Sam's full review of the spell, and other fun things.